Effective nozzle selection and use on Fusarium head blight control. As you know, Fusarium head blight is a serious disease of wheat. We have a couple of fungicides on the market, but they only suppress the disease. Part of the problem may be getting uniform coverage on both the front and the back of the wheat head. It's hard to properly spray a vertical target such as a wheat head. To address this problem, dual nozzles which spray forward and backwards have been designed. But the optimum height for these nozzle types is only about 12 to 15 inches, which is pretty low. Producers tend to like spraying higher than this to protect their booms. However, spraying too high is likely affecting the performance of the nozzle. In the March 2013 edition of Top Crop Manager, Tom Wolfe was quoted as saying, "When you have a high boom, the angle the spray leaves the nozzle at very quickly becomes irrelevant. Air resistance and gravity redirect the spray to fall vertically or move with prevailing winds." End of quote. So, in this study, I wanted to compare two nozzles. One was a conventional bubble jet, and the other was a green leaf, turbo drop, asymmetric dual fan, affectionately known as a TADF. This is what one looks like. The blue arrow indicates the direction of travel. It has a 10-degree forward-facing nozzle and a 50-degree rearward-facing nozzle. So I compared these two nozzles at optimum and excessive heights. The optimum height for the bubble jet was 25 inches and the optimum height for the TADF was 15 inches. The excessive height used for both nozzles was 36 inches. I then looked at these nozzles and boom heights at two different operating pressures of 40 and 70 psi. At 40 psi, the nozzles delivered a very coarse-to-coarse spray with a water volume of 10 gallons per acre. At 70 psi, the spray was less coarse and delivered 13.2 gallons per acre. You can see at the bottom I also threw in an unsprayed check for comparison, but technically it's not part of the analysis. So, at the time of spraying, I placed water-sensitive paper on wooden dowels in front of each treatment to assess the level of spray coverage. You can see with the bubble jet the coverage of the front of the head was good, with poor coverage on the back of the head. Surprisingly, coverage on the back of the head really isn't that bad. I wonder if it would have been poorer if the conventional travel speeds of 12 to 18 miles per hour had been used. In this study, the travel speed was only 6 miles per hour. When operated at excessive heights, coverage of the front of the head was still good, but coverage on the back of the head was totally lost. With the dual nozzle, coverage was better on the back of the head compared to the front. Again, I wonder how it might have looked at a faster travel speed. When operated at an excessive height, coverage on the front of the head was totally lost. So, for both nozzles, coverage was reduced when operated at excessive heights, which we shall see then translated into higher levels of fusarium and reduced yield. This table is only showing main effects, since there were no interactions. If you look at the table, the only main effect showing significant differences was boom height. When averaged over nozzle type and operating pressure, an excessive boom height significantly reduced crop yield from 66.5 down to 62.7 bushels per acre. I'm assuming most of that yield loss was fusarium damaged kernels blowing out the back, but it could also have been reduced control of leaf disease. I don't have any observations to either support or reject this hypothesis. There was significantly more fusarium damaged kernels in the grain from treatment sprayed at excessive boom heights. There was more grain protein associated with excessive boom height, which isn't surprising since there was also less yield. Couldn't detect any differences between the two operating pressures or between nozzles. So the main conclusion is that excessive nozzle height can reduce the efficacy of fungicide on Fusarium head blight and reduce yield. I've applied for more funding to compare some nozzles again, but this time I plan to do it at 12 miles per hour. I would also like to look at double application from opposite directions. Just what is the potential suppression of Fusarium Head Blight with achieving excellent coverage? There are a number of factors which can influence coverage, including the direction of the prevailing wind. Producers should invest in water-sensitive paper to assess coverage being achieved. The results from this study would suggest good coverage makes a difference. How does traveling at 12 miles an hour compare to 18 miles an hour? I know some people within Bayer who have been experimenting with producers are now trying to get producers to slow down to 12 miles an hour in order to improve coverage. Well, that's it for this trial. Hopefully I get funded to continue this type of work as I find it very interesting and I think it has potential value to many producers.